Hi, grade 10. So let's look at question 1. So question 1 says, factorize the following completely. Okay, so let's start with the first question, 1.1.1. So if you have to factorize this, the first question you ask, is there a highest common factor? So there's nothing that goes into that, and into that. Okay? And because it's three terms, it's a trinomial. So trinomial has two brackets. X and x will give me x squared. So what times what is 15? That if you add them, so if you add them, then it must give you 16. Okay? So it's not 5 times 3, because if I add this, it won't give me 16. The only other factors is 15 and 1. If you add this, it will give you 16. So 15, then 1, so biggest number first, and then you do a minus and a minus. So a minus and a plus is a minus and a minus. Next question, 1.1.2. We have this term over here. So we have this term, and then we have this term. So there's two terms, eh? But there's nothing here that looks identical to this. But what I do notice is when I look at the first term and I look inside the bracket over there, I can factorize that bracket even further. So let's look here. Do you see this bracket over there? I can factorize that further. So let me write this down. This bracket, there is a common factor over there. So there's a number that goes into 6 and into 2. That number is 2. So I'm going to leave the a there and then take out 2. Open bracket. This divided by 2 is 3a. And this divided by 2 is only b. Okay? And then I leave everything else as it is. So now I still have two terms, eh? It's this one and that one. But you see this a times 2. That can be written as 2a, eh? So let's rewrite that. A times 2 is 2a. So I leave everything else as it is. And now I ask myself, is there anything here that looks exactly like this? So in grade 9, we took out a common bracket, eh? So can you see that this bracket now looks exactly like that bracket? So I'm going to take out that bracket, take it out, open another bracket. So no minus here. Open the other bracket. Then what's in front here is 2a. And what's in front here is minus 3. And there you fully factorize that question. Look at our next question. 1.2 says, simplify the following expressions fully. So let's write our question down. So the first thing I would do here is I would change my base number, eh, to 3 to the 3. So 27 is 3 to the 3. 3 to the 3. Everything to the 2 over 3. And then I keep the base. And remember, when you have a power to a power, so a power to a power, you multiply them, eh? So then you just say 3 times 2 over 3. And that gives me 3 to the 2. And the answer is 9. Our next question, 1.2.2. We have to simplify this. So let's look at the question quickly. So when you look at this question, you have a fraction times a fraction divided by a fraction. Okay, so the first thing we do with fractions is we don't divide, we times. So I'm first going to change this to a times, and then I'm going to switch these two around. Remember, you switch around the fraction after the sign. So not the fraction in front of the sign that you are changing. So yeah, I'm changing the division sign to times, and then I'm switching around. Eh? So this goes on top, and then x squared plus 3x plus 9 goes at the bottom. Okay, so that's the first thing I would do. The next thing you do is, when you are multiplying fractions, you want to cancel. So can you see this and this will cancel? But that's all that will cancel here. I don't see anything else that might cancel. So to continue, I'm going to try and factorize, eh? So here I can't factorize, there I can't factorize. Let's look. So This I can factorize. So let's make a tick there. This I can factorize. That's the difference of two cubes. This one I can factorize. That's the difference of two squares. Okay, this one I can't factorize. And you can play around, but this one you can't factorize, eh? Even if you try, you can play around, you can't. Now, I'm going to keep the first fraction as it is. Then, this is the difference of two cubes. So it's this and a long bracket. Difference of two cubes, x minus the cube root of 27 is 3. So this becomes 3. Then this is x squared, because this times this must give me x cubed. Okay, so that's how I got the x squared. Then I can say 27 divided by 3. That's 9. So this is 9. This is always a plus. And this sign here, if this is a minus, then this one is a plus. Okay, so that's always the opposite sign. And then x times 3 is 3x. Okay, so there you factorize that. Difference of two squares, x plus 3, x minus 3. And then the last term, or the last fraction, stays the same. Okay, so let's look now. Is there anything that can cancel now? So this x minus 3 and that x minus 3 can cancel. This x plus 3 and that x plus 3. This x minus 3, that x minus 3. And can you see x squared plus 3x plus 9 can cancel with x squared plus 3x plus 9. So everything canceled out. So the answer here is 1. Okay, so let's see how they mark this question. Let me mark it with you. So for switching around and changing the sign, that's a mark. Difference of two cubes, difference of two squares. And then for the final answer. And that's how you will get your 4 marks. Okay, next question. And this one is a fraction. But in this fraction, we have exponents. Okay, so this is actually simplifying exponential expressions, eh? Okay, so the first thing I notice is there's a plus and a minus between the terms. So can you see a minus or a plus means I have to factorize. Before we factorize, I'm going to break it up first, eh? So do you see this term? I'm going to break it up to 3. I'm going to break it up as 3 to the x times 3 to the 1 minus. This one I'm going to break up 3 to the 2. Then over this one I'm going to break up 3 to the x, 3 to the 2, plus 3 to the x. Now, grade 10s, don't make this mistake, eh? Don't cancel them because they look the same. We can't just cancel when there's a minus or a plus between terms, eh? So we first factorize. Okay, after you factorize, you look here and you ask yourself, is there a common factor? Is there something that's here and also there? So that's 3 to the x, eh? 3 to the x is here and also there. So I'm going to take out 3 to the x and open my bracket. Okay, if I take out 3 to the x, what's left there? Only 3 to the 1 minus, because there is a minus. If I take out 3 to the x, what's left? 3 to the 2. Okay, now I do the same for the denominator. What's here? That's also there. 3 to the x, take it out. If I take out 3 to the x, I'm left with 3 to the 2. Because there's a plus, I also have a plus. And if I take out 3 to the x there, there's nothing left, so there's a 1. Okay? If there's nothing left, it's not 0. It's 1. So after you factorize, you can cancel. So this and this can now cancel. You can put this whole thing in your calculator. You will get negative 6. And then this on your calculator, you will get 10. And then you can simplify that fraction. The final answer to this is a negative 3 over 5. Okay, let's see how they mark this question in the memo. So for taking out the common factor, that's a mark, eh? And then for taking out the common factor there, that's also a mark. And then simplifying, and then for your final answer. That's how you would get 4 marks. Let's look at our next question, question 2. Here it says you have to solve for x, eh? So 2.1.1, let's solve for x. This is 2 times 3 to the 2x is equal to 18. So this is an exponential equation. So how do we solve this? We can divide both sides by 2, so we get rid of that number in front. So this and this will cancel, and this is equal to 9. Okay, yeah, you can just make the base numbers the same. This is 3 to the 2. And then when the base numbers are the same, they fall away. Then you just write this is equal to that. So now I'm going to write this is equal to that. And now solve for x. Divide by 2, divide by 2. I get my x to be 1. Okay, so how do they mark this? So here for dividing by 2, you get a mark. Then for simplifying, you get 2 marks. Then for the answer, you get 1 mark. In this paper, this was a 4-mark question. Okay, let's look at our next question, 2.1.2. This is an inequality. So let's write our inequality down. So with an inequality, we don't want this denominator here. So I'm going to take this over to that side. But if you're dividing here, you must multiply on the other side. So let's do that. So that 3 is now not here. And then I'm going to multiply the 3 with everything on the right. Okay, now I'm going to remove the brackets. So this is 6x. And this is plus 3. Keep my inequality sign. X's to the left, and numbers to the right. So x's to the left, minus 6x, and then 3 plus 1. So here I get negative 4x, and here I get 4. But now I have to divide by negative 4. With inequalities, when you divide by a negative, the inequality sign changes. If it's greater than at the moment, it is now less than. So x is less than this answer, and that answer is negative 1. So there's your final answer. X is less than or equal to negative 1. And that's how you do that question. Let's mark. So here you get a mark for multiplying with a 3, for removing the brackets, for simplifying, and for your answer. So that question was also 4 marks. Okay, now our last question under solve for x is this one. So we have to solve for x. 2x squared minus x minus 10 equals 0. So with this one, we're going to factorize. And remember, when you factorize a trinomial and you're solving for x, this must be 0. So for 2x squared, this is the only option, 2x and x. Okay, now I have to figure out, is it 5 and 2? Let's see, this is 5x. This is 4x. Yeah, 5x and 4x will give me 1x. So now, this is 5, this is 4. The biggest number gets a minus. So here by the 5, it will get a minus. And that means this is a plus. Okay, and you can use the long method for this. So I get 2x minus 5 is 0. Or x plus 2 is 0. Okay, so I'm going to solve here. 2x is equal to a positive 5. So x is equal to 5 over 2. Or x is equal to negative 2. And that's the answer. So you have 2 solutions for x, So remember, when you solve for x and there's an x squared, this means you have 2 solutions. Okay, might be the same number, but you have 2 solutions. So here, this is how you mark for factorizing, for making them equal to 0, and for both answers. So this answer and that answer, this one was also 4 marks. Okay, let's look at this question. This question 2.2 says, how much must be added to this expression so that it will give me this answer? Okay, so let's just write this down. Something must be added to this, and then the answer must give me this. Okay, so how I'm going to do it is, I'm going to multiply out both, So this is the difference of 2 squares. This will give me x squared minus 25. This side is not the difference of two squares. So this times this is x squared. That times that is minus 25x. That times that is x. That times that is minus 25. If I add the like terms, it's that minus 24x minus 25. So now the question is, how do I get this to look like that? So x squared is there, tick, tick. There's an x squared, there's an x squared. There's a minus 25, there's a minus 25. So the only thing that's missing is this over here. So that's our answer. Eh? We must add negative 24x. So if you add negative 24x here, the answer is this, negative 24x minus 25. Okay, and this question was also for 4 marks. Okay, so for multiplying out, and then for seeing that negative 24x, and then for your final answer. Here's the final answer there. This was also 4 marks. Okay, so here's our last question under Algebra 2.3. Solve x and y simultaneously. Okay, so let's write the two equations down. So y minus 3x is equal to negative 2, and 7x minus 2y is equal to 8. Okay, I'm going to use the method of substitution. So substitution says, take one of the equations and make x or y the subject. So here, I'm going to make y my subject. So y is equal to, if you take this negative 3x over, it becomes a positive 3x, and then minus 2 stays on that side. Okay, so this is now equation number 3. This is number 1, that's number 2. Okay, so now I'm now going to substitute equation number 3 into equation number 2. So not into equation number 1, because 3 came from 1. So I can't sub it into itself. So I'm going to use this one here. So then I write that one down. So 7x minus 2y is equal to 8. And now wherever there's a y, you see there's a y, I'm going to write this. I'm going to make the y that part over there. So 7x minus 2, there's y now. So y becomes 3x minus 2 is equal to 8. And now I solve for x. 7x minus 6x plus 4 equals 8. And then 7x minus 6x can stay on this side. 8, the 4 goes over, minus 4. This is 1x, and this is a positive 4. So there you solve for x. But remember with this question, you have to solve for x and you have to solve for y. So now that you have x, you can use any of the 3 equations. So I'm going to use equation number 1. So I'm going to write equation number 1 down. Let's see. Y minus 3x. And now I'm going to make my x 4. So wherever there's an x, I'm just going to make that 4. Y minus 3. This is now 4. And then I just remove the brackets. This is y minus 12. And then I take the 12 over. So this negative 12 becomes a positive 12. I get my y to be 10. And there you solve for x and you solve for y. So let's mark. So the first mark you get is for making something your subject. We chose y. That's a mark. Then for subbing it in here, that's a mark. Then for getting x, and then for getting y. And that is also 4 marks. And that's the algebra questions from this paper, grade 10s.